Why the Long Walk makes no sense. If you haven't seen The Long Walk, this is probably gonna have spoilers, so don't watch this video. But I watched The Long Walk I don't really know when I watched it, but I watched it a while ago. And me and my friend were talking, and I think I have a pretty good plan on how, like, if I was going to be in this universe and I got picked, I don't think girls can get picked. Can they? I don't know, but if I was picked to do the long walk, this is how I would survive it, okay? So, basically, if you don't know the long walk, you basically get picked by the government to do this long walk, and you just walk forever until all of you just can't walk anymore, basically. So then there's one, and then that one person gets like a bunch of money. They get one wish. They get like a one wish, and then they can do whatever. How I would survive it. Number one, I would pack like diapers. You know, like adult diapers. I would pack that because you have the problem of like, how are you gonna go to the bathroom if you just have to walk the entire time, right? That's my solution to that. My second solution is an extra pair of shoes, because if I'm walking like 20,000 miles, my shoes are going to like be damaged. They're just going to be unwalkable, right? I'm definitely going to bring an extra pair of shoes in my backpack. Water. See, water is, you obviously, if you're walking a long distance, you need water, but how much water? Because then you run into this situation of having to go to the bathroom again. So I think I would, and also the weight of it. Like, you're going to be walking a really, really long time. If you have too much weight in your backpack, that's going to slow you down. So I think like having like a water bottle like this, or maybe something a little bit bigger, but I wouldn't bring like a gallon water bottle. I don't think I'd bring that, because that's too much. Obviously snacks like protein bars, high calorie stuff. I would also eat a lot beforehand. I would eat like a bunch, kind of like for a marathon, like preparing to be going to a marathon. Like, I would eat a lot before. I'd bring medicine like ibuprofen. I'd bring like headache medicine. You also run the risk of getting sick if you're walking, so I'd bring like cough medicine and all that stuff. And then I'd also bring like bandages, first aid stuff, because again, if you're walking, you're gonna get blisters on your feet, or you're just gonna, I don't know, like, what if you trip and fall, or you break something, or yeah, I would bring that. What else would I bring? Hat, sunglasses, water. I think that's all I would bring, to be honest. Yeah, I feel like that's good stuff to have in your backpack.
Imagine that you're so broke.
Yeah, they do shoot you if you fail, yeah.
That your only choice was to sign up for the deadliest marathon in the world. It's just you, 49 other dudes, and a fat bag of cash if you reach the end. But guess what? Only one player gets to survive, and anyone who stops gets smoked on live TV.
Yeah.
But honestly, surviving this would be easy, and I've got the perfect strategy to win the entire thing. So we're here to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the endless march in the long walk. So it all starts with this guy, Ray, who's just won a spot in a low-budget version of the Hunger Games. Basically, he lives in an alternate timeline where the country is dead broke after getting slapped around in some kind of giant war, and now every year one dumbass from each state gets picked to compete in a non-stop walk-off, where only one player gets out alive. The winner gets unlimited V-Bucks and receives one wish. But as for everyone else, it's back to the lobby as soon as they stop walking. Ray's arriving at the death game the only way that makes sense, by getting dropped off by his mom. She even packed him some cookies like he's going off to school, but it's probably the last time that they're ever gonna see each other alive. When it's time to say their goodbyes, Mom tries acting like she's proud, but she starts ugly crying the moment that he tries to walk away. But it's too late to turn back, and after one last hug, he leaves to join the other 49 morons as they sit around waiting for it to start. Alright fam, now I know a lot of you guys have been wanting us to cover the long walk for a while, so of course I had to do it for my people. But I'm gonna be honest, I started out wondering, how in the am I gonna make an entire video about a bunch of dudes just walking down the street? But then it dawned on me, we can basically just wrap it up right here, because this is actually one of the easiest death games ever made, and I've got a plan to survive it without even trying. So here it is, my genius plan that's 100% guaranteed to work. The best way to survive the long walk is to just never sign up for this in the first place.
Just
like
don't sign
seriously,
up.
I can't believe how dumb you'd have to be to actually think this was a good idea. And I mean, it's not like the Hunger Games where you don't get a choice.
You're mandatory.
Signing up was completely optional. And I'm just gonna say, if you guys think that I would do this for the money, then you're severely underestimating my grind. Like, sure, times are tough, but if Peepaw survived the Great Depression, then I can get through whatever the hell's happening here. And I mean, these people all have cars and so how bad can it really be? So you can trust and believe that I'd be living in the sewers and surviving off a spare change before I ever got desperate enough to even try this, because I'd rather be thugging.
I will say I love the main character in this movie. He's just like an average Joe. Like he's like
in and out in a cardboard box than getting capped on live TV.
special.
But okay, let's just say I was
Just
a real
average
sicko
Joe.
who actually wanted to risk it for the biscuit. Well, in that case, I'd just be spending the first 18 years of my life training like a
Training
damn
for
anime
it.
villain. I mean, forget learning to count or do my
Jesus.
ABCs or any of that other shit. From the moment I'm a baby, I got one job and one job only: to become an absolute jacked monstrosity before my 18th birthday. I'm talking leg day every day.
Oh, Jesus.
Nothing but squats, lunges, and lean protein until my body's legit shaped like a triangle. But it's not just about how you train, it's about the mental game as well. So
Yep.
hear me out. I'm gonna go back and watch all the tapes and get somebody to read me the rules until I have all the best strategies and the legs of Saquon Barkley. And then I'll be ready to smoke these other losers and go home with the baggie. Now, on his way past the guards, Ray makes friends with this dude Pete, who's got a big Joker scar all the way up his
Yeah,
right cheek.
yeah.
It's not like this
Did
is
they
a
ever
beauty
explain that?
contest, but if it was, there's one guy who looks like he'd win either way, and his name is Stebbins, and he's clearly the most athletic one in the group, so he's got the more gamer-bodied dudes shook before the walk even starts. Then we've got Hank, the nerd with the big mouth, Art, the nice religious guy who's basically the polar opposite of this clown, and this Malcolm in the Middle looking dude named Curly, who's definitely gonna make it past the first day. The others start ripping on Hank
Yeah.
for talking too much, but then they realize that he's pretty normal compared to this weirdo Barkovich who tries to
Jesus.
join in. He's giving off major serial killer
Yeah,
vibes,
yeah.
if you know what I mean, but
Yeah.
then an even bigger dingus shows up to crash the party. It's the Major, who's basically like the front man to put things in Squid Game terms, and he's here to hand out everybody's number. After going through the whole list one at a time, he tells them all to line up and get ready to start walking. But first, it's time for a whole motivational speech about bravery and serving your country. When he's finally done yapping, he decides to remind them all about the most important rules. First off, you gotta keep walking at least 3 miles per hour until there's only one player left. You get 3 warnings if you fall behind, and they each reset after 1 hour of walking. But if you use up all 3 or try to make a run for it, then
You're
your
dead.
goose is cooked, my man. That's basically it though, so now that they all know the rules, it's officially time to get to steppin'. But my dude Ray is about to realize that he just made his biggest mistake. So far they're just walking, which is pretty much all they're gonna be doing for the
He's
next
going too
hour and a half,
fast.
so buckle up. It's probably a little hard to concentrate when they're surrounded by machine guns, but Ray's trying hard not to think about it, so he keeps looking at the butterflies instead. Oh, and the whole thing's being broadcast live for the fans back at home, so they've basically got the entire country waiting to watch them get blasted on live TV. Alright, so now's when we gotta start talking strategy, and you're probably thinking, what could you even do besides just keep walking and try not to get shot? But guess what? You're already beat, my boy, so better luck next time, because real ones know the plan started before we even got here. Now, just like a night at the club or a date at a fancy restaurant, you're gonna need the right pair of shoes. So
Yeah.
you might be thinking, alright, I'll just get a fresh pair of sneakers and be fine. But that's where you're wrong, because sneakers are gonna give you blisters after the first couple of miles. So for me, I'm getting a pair of lightweight hiking boots, like the type you'd see some granola dude wearing on a nature trail. Yeah, I'd want something durable that's gonna last for literally hundreds of miles, and I wouldn't be just taking those bad boys out the box either. Nah, I'm gonna make sure they're broken in before the walk even starts.
Yeah.
The only reason I would bring a pair of sneakers is for some backup shoes in case my boots wore out. But to be honest, they're probably lasting longer than me anyways. Now the boys still have a long way to go, and if I start power walking too soon, then I'm gonna get tired way too
Yeah.
early. But everybody has a watch that shows exactly how fast they're going. So if the only rule is that I can't go slower than 3 miles per hour, then I'm gonna just walk at 3.1 the entire time. See? Easy. And if I catch a warning, then maybe I'll speed it up to 3.2 miles per hour. But as long as I'm clear, then it's slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah.
But that's not the only reason I'm walking slow. I'm over here playing chess while these other dudes playing checkers. Because at the back of the group, the other guys are blocking the wind, which actually makes it even easier for me to avoid getting tired. And the
I
best
didn't know
part
that.
is, they won't even know that they're helping me, while I'm just sitting in the back chilling the whole time. And then getting to the end of this should be quite easy. At 5 miles in, they notice that Stebbins takes his first warning, and my guy Hank starts trying to pick apart his strategy. The others don't see the vision, but he can tell that Captain America back there knows exactly what the hell he's doing. And so far, the dude's
He's
not even
resting
breaking us away.
earlier.
Eventually, they get to a bridge where that creepy dude Barkovich suddenly comes to a stop. He's saying that there's a rock in his boot and takes a hell of a long time to get it out, but he gets up before the soldiers send him off to go night-night. Buddy starts acting like it was all part of his plan, but the others say if that's true, then his plan f***ing sucks. And he storms off all mad to go walk it off by himself. Now they're 7 miles into the hike, with only one more to go before they get to Eminem's house, and the boys start talking about what they'd do with the money if they'd win. But my boy Ray here says that he's not just doing it for the Skrilla. He's here on some big fight the system type and starts breaking it down for the other guys so that they can peep game. Basically, they say the game is voluntary, but even though the losers get killed, everyone still signs up. So if things are so bad that this is their only way out, then they never really had a choice in the first place. The others all agree that that is some real talk, which makes Ray here sound like some kind of Greek philosopher.
Yeah,
but
what?
Pete still wants to get the cash so he can help his friends out back home. That's when this nerdy dude Harkness comes up from the back of the group and says he's decided to write a book about the whole experience. Typical nerds, always trying to make things into a homework assignment. But so far they haven't had any casualties until all of a sudden Malcolm in the middle here starts getting a cramp. And just like that, these boys are about to see their first body. Ray grabs the dude and tries to keep him up, but after a few seconds, Curly starts to crack, and there's nothing they can do to make him keep going. Terrified, he falls to the ground, begging for mercy, but the soldiers just walk up and one-tap him as soon as time runs out, and that makes one walker down with 49 more to go. Alright, now that's some real traumatizing right there. And I'm not gonna lie, now that things are getting real, I'd be starting to regret my decisions about starting this in the first place. But Ray's over here talking about all this we didn't have a choice stuff. Like, buddy, you had to sign up for this voluntarily. That's literally the definition of a choice. But I get what he's saying, you know, on paper or whatever. Ray didn't choose the thug life chose him. But maybe he should have spent less time reading books and more time getting his money up. Because then he'd be home watching Curly get smoked from the comfort of his living room. Now, just because there's some hypothetical universe where I was dumb enough to sign up for this doesn't mean I'm dumb enough to stick around. And after 7 miles, I'm already gonna be tired as and reality is going to start setting in that I might not be built for this after all. And even with Curly down, I've still only got like a 2% chance of winning, so personally I'd rather take my chances and try to escape. But I'd just get blasted if I try to run, so I need to convince everyone to join me first. Basically, I'd just point out that they all have only a 2% chance of surviving as well, and then secretly make a plan to rush the soldiers the next time we have a good opportunity. I'm thinking we wait until it's nighttime and they're out in the middle of nowhere, and then we all work together to take down the guards. There's only about, 6 or 7 of these guys? And there's still 49 of us. And I'll be honest, our chances of winning the fight are pretty small. But they've got to be better than 2%, right? Now, if you trusted me, that was your biggest mistake. I mean, seriously, there's no way we could take those soldiers. Those guys have tanks. But once the chaos breaks out, I'ma just use everybody as a meat shield, dip into the forest, move to Canada, and change my name. And then I'm never walking more than 50 feet in any direction ever again. They've been walking for hours when Pete finally decides to empty the tank, but since he can't stop, he just turns around and let it rip straight at the other guys.
I hate that, bro.
Now they're on mile 17, and Ray tells Pete that he's feeling a little tired, but on the bright side, only 48 more people need to die before he gets to sit down. Pete's feeling it as well, but he tells Ray that the trick for getting through it is to just take things one moment at a time. After a while, they pass a little girl who came out to cheer for Ray like he's one of the damn Jonas Brothers. The others start making fun of him for it, but Pete decides that they should all be on some best friends forever type shit and try to get along instead. So that's how Ray, Pete, Hank, and Art became the Four Musketeers. But of course, Barkovich has to chime in with his little 2 cents just to let everyone know that he is still annoying.
Yeah,
That's when
and he's
Hank
still
starts
alive.
feeling like something's wrong with his leg. But then out of nowhere, Walker number 1 drops to the floor and starts having a seizure. But there
my
ain't no
God.
nurse's office on this field trip, so they just blow his head off as soon as time runs out, and that makes 2 walkers down with 48 more to go. By now, they've been walking for 25 miles, and that's basically an entire ass marathon, and they aren't stopping anytime soon. The boys
I
start
don't
wondering if
think
Barkovich
there is
still
no way. There is no way I am surviving this.
has his 3 warnings,
way.
but he chirps back that he's back down to none, which is when Pete pulls out some kind of tin can full of raw deer meat, and it disgusts Hank so bad that his leg cramp starts coming back. They
So
all start
bad.
walking a little slower until it passes, but my boy Hank just keeps screwing it all up, and he drops the last little tube full of rations that was supposed to get him through the day. But Ray comes in clutch and gives Hank one of his, because that's just what the Musketeers do. Barkovich starts picking on this kid named Rank for his objectively stupid name, and he rage baits him with a bunch of yo mama jokes until he finally takes a swing. But Barkovich just keeps dodging him like Neo from The Matrix until he finally trips and ends up cheese grating his face on the pavement. The others already know what's about to happen, and when Rank can't get up, the soldiers just pull up and dome him right on the spot, making 3 walkers down with 47 more to go. Whoever let Rank sign up for the walk must have really hated Dude, because, I mean, come on, all it takes is one look at the guy to tell that he never stood a chance.
No.
I mean, at least he was skinny, but this ain't a trip to summer camp. You need a little bit of that killer instinct to get by, which Buddy here obviously did not have. Like, bro, I'm not about to let some dude named Gary Barkovich get in my head. So if he started trolling me, I'ma just ignore him and keep on walking, because why am I worried about this dude when there's a squad of guys with machine guns waiting to light me up? And you can tell homeboy I hear was an easy target from the way he reacted, because anybody who went to public school knows you never show a bully that it's getting to you.
Yep.
So nah, I would just block it out and use the thought of him getting body bagged as my motivation to keep going. And just because you took a little spill doesn't mean you just give up. Like, rub some dirt in it and get back to walking, my boy. Because my legs would deadass have to be broken before I just sat there and let it happen. But I could actually use this to my advantage as well, because there's nothing in the rules against trolling other players. And even if some of these guys are more athletic, I know I've got them beat when it comes to talking shit. So now I wouldn't want to get everyone mad at me first, because it's still good to have some friends so you can help each other out, but anyone from the outside of the friend group is fair game. So I'm gonna start looking for the easiest targets, figuring out what they're most insecure about, and then start trolling them nonstop for the rest of the game. And according to the rules, anyone who attacks another player gets a violation. So all I've got to do is get someone mad enough to take a swing, and I'll be one step closer to winner winner chicken dinner. And I mean, sure, yeah, it's not the most honorable way to do it, but I'm not afraid to use dirty tactics if that's what I got to do to survive. And since there can only be one winner, I'm gonna make sure I do whatever it takes to get the advantage. The boys all start blaming Barkovich for what happened, even though he's trying to act like he didn't do anything wrong. But now he's easily the most hated guy in the game, and everyone else is just waiting to see him get smoked. Things calm down for a little bit until word starts going around that Walker 45 has the Hershey squirts. And that's when my boy just drops his pants and starts letting it rip right there in the middle of the street. And I mean, hey, what else are you gonna do
Yeah.
here? There's no time to wipe unless he wants to get killed, but he can't hold off the chocolate thunder from down under, and they end up blowing his head off mid-dookie without a moment's hesitation, making 4 walkers
That's not
down
funny.
with 46 more
That's
to go.
really not
Now
funny.
they're 35 miles in, and it's getting close to nighttime. Pete notices that Ray's got something on his mind, but he says that he'll tell him in the morning, so they've got something to look forward to. He breaks out some of these homemade cookies and starts dreaming about being back at home with his mom, but suddenly he wakes up a few hours later, and Pete says that he's been sleepwalking for miles. Everything seems to be going fine until Ray gets his second warning and Barkovich starts chiming in with his usual bullshit. That's when Ray trips and gets warning number 3. But even though Pete helps him up, he starts cracking under the pressure and spazzing out on his own boys. Now it's time for their greatest challenge yet, a hill. and Stebbins
God.
says that they're about to start dropping like flies. The place starts sounding like a Call of Duty match as anyone who slows down gets blasted, and Barkovich is still yapping the entire time. All Ray can do is lock in and ignore the rifle pointed straight at his face, but when he's about to give up, Pete grabs his arm and helps him push through. Ray apologizes for losing his cool, but Pete's already squashed the beef. And Art and Hank survived the climb too, so it looks like the Musketeers are still going strong. Only 18 of them survive until the morning, and now they're 59 miles in, with every step getting harder and harder. Alright, now the fellas just survived their first night, and if I was able to make it through that, then I'd be starting to feel a lot more confident about my chances of winning this entire thing. But since we're down to only 18 survivors, I officially have a 5% chance of winning. And that's still not great, but it's better than nothing, right? And honestly, I gotta try to look on the bright side because after walking 60 fucking miles nonstop, I'm gonna be the most exhausted that I've ever been in my entire life. Like, I don't know if you fully realize this, but that's 2 marathons without stopping. So unless I gave myself an adamantium skeleton like Wolverine, my legs, knees, hips, ankles, hell, everything are gonna feel like they're on fire. And my feet are gonna be so covered in bloody blisters. So yeah.
The nice thing, I can't do this because it's only men, so.
This is all over, I'm gonna need one hell of a spa day. So it's understandable why Ray crashed out on his boys, but honestly right now, that's the worst possible thing you could do. Now I know we're all in a competition here, but as soon as I saw that hill coming up, I would be making sure that I was best friends with everybody because I'm gonna need somebody to help me if I start looking like I'm gonna go down. But here's the thing, the hill might be scary, but just like everything else, the right strategy makes this whole thing easy. And that's why you're gonna catch me at the back of the pack, because just like before, I'm letting the other guys take the wind to make my life slightly easier. And then all I gotta do is get into a rhythm and power through. But what's scarier to me is the stuff that I can't control, like needing to sleep and go to the bathroom. Obviously, I would just try and stay awake and hold it in for as long as humanly possible, and that's probably gonna work for a day or two, but we need a backup plan just in case nature calls. You know, taking a shit is gonna be easy because, like, just let it rip as you keep on walking. I mean, it's completely disgusting, right? And embarrassing as hell, but it's better than getting capped while you're squeezing one out. So personally, I'm gonna be spreading it down the road like an old dog and just keep it pushing. But sleep though, that's gotta be the real challenge because eventually I'm gonna get tired. But this one's easy too if you've got the right strategy. So for me, I would just team up with a group of guys and work together so we could sleep one at a time.
You know what else I would bring? I would bring like 8-hour energy or like 5 hour, like the 10-hour energy drinks. I'd bring that too in my pack.
I'm not saying that we'll get the full 8 hours, probably like 30 seconds at best, but every little bit helps. And when this is all over, I'm gonna be laid up in the bed for a week straight. Pete asks Ray if he thinks that he's gonna make it, but honestly, he's been having some doubts, and Pete admits that he gave up on winning a long time ago. He says that he wanted to believe that they wouldn't actually kill everyone because I guess he forgot that this is literally a death game. But now that reality came knocking, he doesn't think that he has what it takes to outlast the others. At mile 67, they come up on 2 kids on bikes who are about to witness something traumatizing. Everyone is feeling a little tense, and Hank's barely holding on, but that's when Harkness gets his first warning. He snapped the out of his ankle back on the hill, and he's been walking on the bloody stump ever since. But it looks like he's finally reached the end of the line. The dude starts crying as he realizes what's about to happen, and everyone else knows that he's already done for. So Art starts shouting at the kids to look away, but they just sit there and watch as the soldiers blow his head schmoove off, making 33 walkers down with 17 more to go. Pete and Ray didn't like watching the nerd get done dirty, but Stebbins and Barkovich both start mouthing off again. And the truth is, only one of them gets to survive, so they better get comfortable watching people they like get smoked. And with that, they've officially made it 100 miles, which is when Art notices that the Major still seems like he's not even tired. But Stebbins says the guy gets to sleep and take showers, so he's living the life of luxury while they're out there fighting to survive. Ray notices that Stebbins has a little cough, but he plays it off like it's just his allergies. But then all of a sudden, this one dude tries to dip out and make a run for it, but the soldiers light him up before he even makes it past the sidewalk, making 34 walkers down with 16 more to go. Oh my god. Alright, now I'm sorry, but this dude should have just dropped out at the beginning and saved everyone the trouble. Like, that was honestly the worst escape attempt that I've ever seen. And Buddy could have at least given us a fucking heads up first, like, damn, maybe I wanted to escape. But now, they're all gonna be ready for it. But anyways, I don't know what the guy was thinking, but he obviously hasn't been playing enough COD, because otherwise he'd know that glass doesn't stop bullets. Well, unless it's bulletproof glass, but you know what I'm trying to say. Like, genuinely though, what was bro's plan here? To run in a straight line and not even try to find cover? That door was probably locked anyway. So my man was clearly better at walking than coming up with ideas, but it got me thinking, how would I have done this? Well, honestly, at this point, I've already been walking for 100 miles, so my legs aren't exactly feeling fresh. And with only 16 players left, I'd have to be pretty dumb to even try. I mean, these guys literally have machine guns and tanks, so what the hell am I even supposed to do here? But maybe, just maybe, there's a way that we could pull it off. Now, if you want to do this successfully, the backup plan has to start before you even entered the game. So I'm gonna get one of my boys from the outside to make a signal, like a certain wave or a little dance I could hit to let them know that it's time. Then I would tell them to check the TV every hour, and if they see me hitting the Dougie, it'll be their sign to meet me a few miles up the road. But as for me, I would wait until it was nighttime and we were out in the middle of nowhere and then wait for a good distraction, like one of the other players getting popped. Then I would just dip out as fast as I could into the woods and use the nature around me for cover, ducking behind trees and rocks and shit until I was able to lose the soldiers, make it to the getaway car, and get the hell up out of there. But to be honest, I'm probably not even making it more than 10 feet, even with the best plan that I could think of. So right now, it's probably better to just stick around and try to actually win this thing. By mile 103, they start talking about what they would wish for if they win. Ray says, you're supposed to wish for something that money can't buy. And when it's Pete's turn, he says that he's gonna wish for the walk to have 2 winners. That way, not everybody has to get capped. Now they want to know what Ray would wish for, but he decides that he doesn't want to jinx it by saying it out loud, so all he'll say is that he wants his wish to change the world. They make it through the night without any more bodies dropping.
Why would it be like the walk has 2 winners? Why not it has like 15 winners or something?
But by mile 144, it's pretty obvious that Stebbins, he ain't doing so well. Things get pretty tense when Art
Or I change it to like, the walk is still a thing, but at mile 100, whoever survives wins.
To pull over for a quick dookie, but he's able to get it out before he catches one to the face. Now that they're alone, Pete asks Ray about that wish again, but he says that he'll only tell him if he keeps it a secret. It turns out that his dad used to show him all kinds of stuff that the government didn't like, but one night 12 kicked in the door waving the 4-4 and dragged Pops out into the street. They gave him one last chance to be a good NPC, but my boy decided to stand his ground, so they blew his face off right there on the spot. That's why Ray decided to join the walk, because if he wins, he's gonna wish for a rifle and use it to slime the Major live on TV.
It's my wish.
Pete starts pointing out some flaws in his plan, like how his dad would still be around if he just lied, and he doesn't think that Ray actually has what it takes to kill someone. He thinks it's more important to actually appreciate their lives instead of going around looking for revenge. But Ray is convinced that his only choice is to slide for his old man. They pass a family of rednecks watching from the side of the road, and Ray says that they're only here to watch somebody get murked. But Pete reminds him that they all live in the same messed up country, and if Ray doesn't believe that there's still good in the world, then there's no reason even trying to win. Up ahead, they see a rainbow in the distance, and this makes old Pete start feeling a little emotional. So he grabs Ray by the shoulder and decides that they should be more than just friends. By now, they're pretty much brothers. But in the end, somebody's got to be an only child. Okay, well, now I understand why Ray was dumb enough to sign up, because his dad was a total idiot as well. So I hate to say it, but Ray's entire family has f***ed up here. I mean, we all break the rules sometimes, you know, but when you're a grown man with a wife and kid, you gotta be a little more careful. If there's one thing you don't want to mess with, it's the government, especially when you live in some kind of 1984 world where you could just get smoked for just owning a book. Being a rebel is all fun and games until a legit military death squad kicks your door down. And at least for me, I would have immediately started acting like the most patriotic American that these guys have ever seen. But I don't think you're really hearing me. I'm saying I would have turned into Stan Smith the moment these fuckers showed up. No troublemakers here, sir. Just 3 people who love the good old red, white, and blue. Because honestly, how hard is it to just lie? The guy's got a blicky to your dome, so this isn't the time to be making a statement. I'd be saying whatever I needed to just make sure these dudes go away. And then as soon as they were gone, I'd just go right back to doing my OG shit. But since Dad had to go fight the system, that gave Ray this bright idea to go follow in his footsteps, and look how that turned out. He could be back at home watching this all on TV, but now he'll be lucky just to survive. So sorry, Ray, but you and your daddy done f***ed up. By mile 170, the boys are
Isn't all of Stephen King's books like they're in the same universe?
barely holding on, and
So
Walker
is this
number
in the
4's
same
feet
universe
are starting
too?
to look like ground beef.
Ooh.
When he can't handle the pain, he tries going up to a tank for some help, but the soldiers
this-
just run his freaking
hate
legs
this-
over and blast him in the head. Just 2 seconds later, this dude Tressler starts ripping off his clothes like he's about to turn into a werewolf. But the second he hits the side of the road, the soldiers just mow him down, making 36 walkers down with 14
had a
more to
mental
go.
break, I
By
think.
mile 201, another 7 walkers have gone down, leaving only 7 still in the game. It's nighttime again, and Ray is still holding on, but it looks like Hank could be the next to go. Stebbins chimes in that he looks ready to give up, so Ray goes over to check on his man, but the dude is completely out of it. And after dropping some quick philosophical bars, he runs up to one of the tanks and grabs somebody's rifle, but they blast him and let him bleed out to set an example for the others. Art can't handle watching his buddy suffer, so Ray has to come pull him off before they both get killed. But there's nothing they can do besides keep going, so that makes 44 walkers down, with only 6 more to go.
Rip.
They make it another few miles before anyone's ready to talk again, and to make things even worse, this guy Collie tells everyone that Hank actually had a wife. That makes him the only married man in the entire group, and he can't believe the dude would risk it when he had somebody like that back at home. Pete decides they should all promise to give some money to Hank's wife if they survive, and even Stebbins finally agrees. It turns out he was actually getting sick after all, but he still thinks that there's a chance that he can win. Now at this point, you might have forgotten that crazy old Barkovich is still alive, and he's personally offended
Bitch,
that Pete didn't
Barkovich.
ask him to join the club, so he goes up to Ray and starts trying to apologize. But the more this guy talks, the more it's obvious why he doesn't have any friends. I mean, he's nuttier than a squirrel fart on a winter's
yeah.
day, and says that he can't keep the voices out of his head, so Ray just tries playing it cool so the dude doesn't snap. He's finally able to get rid of him without the guy doing anything crazy, but just when it seems like he's finally starting to get it together, he walks straight to the front of the group and decides to quit the competition early, making 45 walkers down with only 5 more
Thank
to
you
go.
for the follow.
Alright, now I might be wrong for saying this, but at least they don't have to deal with that guy anymore. We're officially down to the last 5 walkers, which means
I did not have a taco today.
that we now all have a 20% chance of winning. But as you can see, more and more of these dudes is starting to crack. Now, we all knew that Barkovich was crazy from the beginning, but you're probably wondering what happened with Captain Underpants over here. Well, I'll tell you. It's called paradoxal undressing. And basically, it's what happens when somebody goes cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
That's what
They
I
just
thought
rip off
too.
all their clothes and start running around like a crazy person. So yeah, walking nonstop for almost 200 miles will do that to you. And now we're not just talking about the physical challenge of walking anymore, because the mental side of things is going to be just as hard. So I'd need to make sure that I don't end up going nuts this close to the finish line. But actually, it's really not that hard as you might think. So what I'm gonna do now is start picking something up ahead, like a tree or a sign, and just stay focused on getting there. Then keep repeating that process one little bit at a time. And this is when I'm gonna start blocking everything out. So if one of these guys gets capped, no they didn't. They just went on an all-inclusive vacation to Aruba. And as a matter of fact, that's where I am too. You see, now I can't get tired because in my head, I'm already at the beach just kicking back and chilling. And if I just refuse to accept reality, then the other players, yeah, they ain't gonna stand a chance. At mile 260, they pass by a flaming car crashed on the side of the road. Collie decides this moment calls for a sing-along, and they all start singing "Oh My Darling Clementine" in honor of Hank's wife. Now it's sunrise on day number 5, and they're getting close to the town where Ray's family lives. Collie says he's lucky for getting to see his mom, and he's pissed that he won't get the same chance again before he dies. But Pete thinks that seeing her is only going to make things worse. At mile 286, they finally make it to Freeport, but Ray's boots fall apart as soon as he gets to town,
See?
so he has to ditch them and start walking in his his soggy
his feet are
socks,
bloody.
which is when he turns to see his mother watching from the side of the road.
Bro.
It's a heartbreaking moment, but instead of passing her, Ray turns around and starts saying that he's sorry until Pete finally comes to pull him back. He's having a full-blown panic attack about having to leave her, so Pete starts telling him a story about his childhood. He says his parents both died in the war, so he had to go live with his drunk of an uncle. But then he died from drinking too much.
I feel like seeing your loved ones is worse than not seeing them, because then you see them and you're like, oh my god, like I don't want to do this anymore. Like you're like, I can't do it, and then you don't win. You lose all motivation to win.
So he fell in with a group of bad dudes and turned to a life of crime. One day he got into a scrap with a dude who sliced him up, and that's how he got his
right, they did
scars.
explain
But
it.
when he woke up in the hospital, he realized that it was time to turn his life around, which is why he always looks at things from the bright side. But he says it takes a lot of work not to go back to his old ways. So he wants to use his prize money to help out other struggling kids. And if Ray wins, Pete says that he needs to give up on revenge and go back to his mom because he deserves to have a second chance instead of throwing it away. At mile 306, Stebbins decides it's time for a new deal. He says they need to stop helping each other and let nature take its course. And even though Pete doesn't like it, Ray agrees that he's probably right. The only one who hasn't said anything is Collie, and out of nowhere he rushes for a rifle and takes down one of the soldiers. They instantly shoot him in the gut, but he decides to quit the game before they can finish the job, and that makes 46 walkers down with only 4 more to go. All right, now we're down to the final 4, and I don't know who Stebbins thinks he is making demands over here, but he's clearly on death's door, and the boys have him outnumbered 3-1. So honestly, why the hell would they listen to this guy? Of course, he wants them to stop working together because he knows it's the only chance he has of surviving until the end. But honestly, he's in no position to be calling the shots. So if it were me, I would try making him a deal. Think about it this way, right? Stebbins is getting sick, so he doesn't have that much longer, but he's also got a fresh pair of sneaks that he'll probably never use. And Ray isn't going to make it much farther on his bare feet, so if I were Ray, I would agree that it's every man for himself, but only if Stebbins lets me have the shoes. Then it's actually a fair competition. And if he disagrees, f*** him. I'll just keep working with the boys and take the shoes once he drops out. At this point, they've been going for 324 miles, and now Art's nose is starting to bleed like a garden hose. Stebbins says that it's probably internal bleeding, and the other guys try to keep him up, but Art eventually cannot go on any longer and tells Pete that he should be proud for coming all this way. The boys say their goodbyes, and Art makes them promise to give his necklace to his grandmother, but now it's time for the 3 musketeers to become the 2, and the boys keep walking on as the soldiers take him out, making 47 down with only 3 more to go. At mile 326, the Major's still piping up with his motivational speakers. Ray starts cursing him out, but the dude's still treating it like a game show, and that's when Stebbins decides that it's time to reveal his secret. He starts comparing himself to the rabbit in a dog race, saying he's supposed to be like a machine that the other guys couldn't catch. It turns out the Major is actually this guy's dad, and he's got dozens of unwanted kids spread out all over the country, so Stebbins' wish was to just for the guy to like finally treat him like a son, but now he can feel his body giving out, so instead of dying like a wild animal, he decides to go out with some dignity. Before he goes, he warns the boys what to expect when they reach the finish line, but that's when he stops and takes his final warning, and the soldiers blow him away as soon as his time is up, making 48 down with only 2 more to go. They've gone 331 miles when they hit their first big crowd, and these sickos actually start cheering them on. But as Pete looks over at Ray, he decides that he's ready to stop. All of a sudden, he drops back down and takes a knee, but Ray isn't ready to let him go, so he picks up his friend and starts pushing him down the road. He asks Pete to walk just a little bit farther, so he decides to hang in there for his friend, but while he's distracted, Ray stops and let his timer run out. The soldiers instantly shoot him twice in the side, and Pete rushes to pick him up, but Ray tells him that he loves him as the soldiers drag him away. Knowing that he's done for, Ray apologizes to his mom as the Major steps up to finish him off, and that makes 49 down with 1 lucky winner, but Pete's story is not over yet. The guy starts breaking down as the fireworks go off and the entire crowd starts to celebrate, but that's when the Major comes to ask for his wish, and thinking it over, he wishes for a soldier's rifle. The Major lets it happen, thinking there's no way he's actually gonna shoot somebody, but the second he gets his hands on it, he ups the weapon and blasts the Major straight in the chest,
Yes,
killing him
sir.
right on the spot. With his wish fulfilled, Pete turns to walk down the empty street, leaving the crowd behind him. In the end, that makes 50 down, with only one survivor, and at least
Fire.
Pete managed to get some revenge for his friend,
Yep.
but I'm thinking next time he might just want to stay home instead. The Long Walk. And I mean, God, them boys show was walking. Yeah, I couldn't do it. I just straight up couldn't do it. I liked the movie, man. I thought that it seemed like the screenwriter let them kind of improvise a little bit on set more
Yeah.
than normal, because
Yeah.
there were so many F words, and it was like, usually that's the sign of actors they're not really good at improving. They just keep saying the F word over and over again. I mean, it was like every other word was the F word, and it was just like, oh my God. It just felt like a child wrote the movie. But anyways, solid adaptation.
I really liked the movie. I thought it was good. I thought it was really good, and I love the ending too.